So this is the backyard pond. It's here when I got to this house. Originally it was completely muck filled and had a pump inside of a bucket with holes in it, just running the water fountain. Started out with one koi fish. Had to keep cleaning that bucket pump, which is actually this little giant, I think it is. That's a tetra pump. This little guy, great snap coming off. I've since updated to a huge pump you see down there, which is actually filled with debris, but it's still running like this, which is what the small pump was doing before. We have bullfrogs taking up residence on this side of the pond, and I've got probably about 4 or 5 big koi, about a foot under there, and I think about 6, maybe 4 to 5 inch, probably 4 inches at this point, babies from last year. This was the house that I made them for the winter time so they could hang out and not be bothered. Right now the pump is just running out here and back into the rocks. Originally there was a buried line underneath of all this that broke, so I was unable to reuse it and have been doing it the ugly way. There was sort of a reservoir area here that led into a waterfall. It also has liner on it. But I hesitate to do anything with it because this was my old pump or filter that I was using, and when I updated to the new pump, the thread on the top ended up bursting, and I'm glad I caught it because this completely had overflowed. It was actually sitting here originally, and the water flowed underneath of the liner, or maybe just through the ground, and got underneath the liner of the pond. So all the water in the pond was running outside and underneath, and the fish almost died. In the process, part of the wall interior came off as the rocks were attached. And this thing's probably, I'd say, 18 inches at its deepest, maybe 16 inches, 18 inches. At the very low end over here, maybe 3 or 4 inches. And they mostly stay on the deep end. There's also like a little area underneath the rocks where they can go as well. So it's a nice pond. It's well put together, but it needs a better filter system for sure. And unfortunately, it's not deep enough to handle the large fish that I have now. So I was thinking of creating a larger pond, which would be a much more expensive thing, from this fence post here over to my neighbor's fence post there, which is actually a pretty large chunk of area where we normally park cars, but I thought it would give this a nice, this area, which is sort of a dead end of grass, would have a seating area overlooking the pond here, which would be nice. Option number 2, which I think is unrealistic, is to extend the pond over to this little stretch. But because I have a pool, and because there is some sort of buried electrical here, I don't think this would be a good spot. Although I had thought about the idea of creating an underground bridge here and creating one large pond, which is not a terrible idea, but I'm not sure how feasible it is. Same thing with going from this pond to another pond over there. I just don't know how feasible it would be to do that. The other option, which seems the most feasible, is to take this raised flower bed, which is not really a flower bed, it's just filled with dirt, covered with the tarp, and has rubber mulch on it, to turn this entire thing into a new pond. And it's fairly large, and if you dug down even deeper, then the ground here could be very deep on one end, or just even as deep as it is now is probably just fine. Now there is a lot of runoff. Some pump runs out of the house and runs to the grass up there, so that would run off here. There's also a lot of debris, but I could build a solid fence, it might work. And the last super unrealistic option would be, I have a 100-foot flower bed in the back, and water flows from this direction down this direction. And even if I did something over here, I'd probably have to have a system of pipes that goes underneath to drain off groundwater. And back here, there's sort of a reserve past this fence where all the water drains to. Right now there are drain holes that go underneath there. But I thought about turning this entire 100-foot stretch into one large pond, which would have a raised wall you could sit on. And I imagine that would be very hard to keep clean and hard to use. The other option here was to deepen this, perhaps create a raised wall instead of this ground level wall, something you could sit on. And perhaps have something running up towards the house, the waterfall maybe starting next to the stairs, running down. Not so sure you can actually see in the corner here.